Hello, dear friends of freedom. I translated a video from the Ukrainian blogger Denis Kazansky in which he is commenting the recent contradicting video of Putin's favorite propagandist and head of RT, Margarita Simonyan. Let's take a look. Very interesting tendencies are happening in Russia right now. Some of the Kremlin's most important and loyal propagandists are openly talking about Russia's backwardness and weakness. And they even admit that Russia is not able to compete with Western countries. Apart from that, they are blaming the Russian leadership for not doing anything throughout the time span of multiple decades to make Russia more modern and competitive. In this example, you would see one of Russia's most famous propagandists and head of Russia Today, Margarita Simonyan. Here's a small reminder about the moral standards of this person. On the 20th of June 2022, while Russia tried everything to block grain exports from Ukraine, Margarita Simonyan, sitting on the stage next to Putin, said this: "All our hope lies in the hunger crisis. The hunger will start now, and they will lift the sanctions and be friends with us, because they will realize that it's impossible not to be friends with us." She is openly admitting that Russia is critically dependent on Western technologies. She is openly admitting that Western countries can easily cut off Russia from critical technologies such as the internet. And she is openly blaming those who were in power in Russia for decades for not doing anything for Russia's security and for not doing anything about Russia's critical dependency on Western countries. Lately, people once again have started to talk about the video platform YouTube and the need to ban it. Of course, it is necessary to ban it. But even if there would be the decision and will to ban it, how would we practically realize that ban? You know, this video might sum up the entire concept of modern-day Russia. Those evil charlatans are constantly threatening to ban any form of oppositional expression, while being too stupid and incompetent to realize that ban. For instance, Instagram. Has it been banned? Yes, it has been banned. But what happened? Even my own personal Instagram account has gained followers during the time it has been banned. Even though I have dedicated less attention to it, my amount of followers increased. And the same will happen to YouTube. We can try to block it, but it will not be blocked. And that is what the whole misery is all about. Do you see the irony? This top propagandist is calling for the ban of Western social media while admitting that she continues to use the illegal platform Instagram, on which she gained more followers, even though her bosses, the Russian government, have labeled Instagram as an extremist organization. These people are criticizing the Russian leadership for not being able to block the usage of the social media platforms that they continue to use. So they criticize the government for not being able to block them from posting and using illegal social media apps. How can you even call this? What is this? How can this be called? Everyone understands that this is insane while supporting this insanity. They understand that the government is not able to ban the usage of social media, that bans are not being implemented, yet they still demand the ban while continuing to use these platforms. Has there ever been such an idiocy in the history of mankind? I cannot remember anything like it. How could it come that far? Why have we failed to secure our informational security? I don't even know who I would need to address this question to. Who has taken these decisions throughout the span of decades? Well, I know to whom this question needs to be addressed, and I know you know it too, since you guys have had only one single person in power for over 2 decades. His name is Putin. He is your boss, and he carries full responsibility for what is happening in your country. But you would never say that, otherwise they would stop paying you. I don't even talk about the question why no one has produced Russian-made platforms or operating systems. Why? Because your Russian regime is inherently incapable of producing anything themselves. The people for whom Margarita Simonyan is working have been stealing in epic proportions for years, and the job of Margarita Simonyan was to help them steal by protecting them with lies and by silencing those who speak about the stealing. And only now, when it becomes increasingly impossible to hide it, when it comes out in what kind of scale the stealing took place, everything becomes fairly obvious. And now they act like they cannot comprehend how this could have happened. It is because a regime that can only threaten, blackmail, and ban is not able to invent and produce. Why would anyone want to invent anything in such a country? Why should anyone produce anything in Russia? So that Putin's friends can eventually come and steal that business? It takes only a press of a button, a new package of sanctions, to turn off everything we have. These phones, for instance, or this camera on which I'm recorded right now, or the device on which you are watching me right now, the computer, iPhone, or iPad you are using right now. This can all vanish all of a sudden. All it takes is one signature, and we will be returned to the 90s, in which we lived without all of that. And your president, despite knowing all that, instead of modernizing and reforming his country, he decided to capture Solidar. That is, while lagging technologically behind Western countries, he decided to start a war against the West. So what kind of person can he be after that kind of decision? How can he be called after all of this, Simonyan? A specialist told me, when our people cope by saying we just switch to phones with buttons and ordinary cellular networks, we will not have that. We will not have that too, because cellular operators are also dependent on specific technologies from over there, and they run on software that also comes from there, and which can also be easily shut down for us. And for all those years, we have not done anything to not be hostages of this situation. Simply nothing. This is how Putin made Russia great again. What a superpower he created there. In a normal country with normal journalists, with normal citizens, that kind of president, who hasn't done anything throughout over 2 decades, who has only betrayed his country, would simply be tried for treason. But here, they just want him to stay for another term. Everyone understands that this is madness, that there is chaos inside the country, that nothing has been done, that the country is not competitive, that the leadership hasn't done anything about it, yet they still continue to support this regime which has led to all of this. Back in the days, the propagandists' position seemed somewhat credible. They were lying about Russia being a superpower. They falsely claimed that Russia's army is the second strongest in the world, that Russia is so powerful and that Putin is the best leader since he built such a powerful country. This was, of course, a fake, but at least back then these lies were somewhat believable because they were lying about this subjective greatness. But now it becomes obvious to everyone, including the propagandists, that this greatness does not exist, that they don't have the world's second strongest army, that Russia is lagging behind other countries, that Russia cannot compete with the West, that it doesn't produce anything on their own, no technologies. Decades have been wasted. So they are not even denying it anymore. They admit that it is true, yet they continue to support those who are responsible for all of this. And they will lose precisely because of this. They are bound to lose, because it is impossible to win when you yourself understand perfectly that everything around you is a lie and you don't believe in this lie. They don't believe in what they do. They don't trust in their leadership or their country. They understand that everything around them is fake. This is why they will lose.